Okay, alright. I think I'm actually ready here. Here we go. Hi there. I'm EnviroBoy, this is my channel. We're starting an hour late today. It's did the best I could. I had a work meeting. Ran over just a little bit. It's important stuff. Had to get it done. Anyone who isn't aware, I am, for my day job, I'm an air quality inspector. So I play what I'd like to think is an important role in helping make sure that my communities and the region that I live in has businesses that are behaving well and meeting environmental regulation standards as far as air quality and air emissions and stuff goes. So, yeah, when stuff comes up, and my presence is needed, it's important I'm there. So, wanted to make sure I got all that taken care of, but we did. We got it taken care of. I feel good about everything. Fortunately, no major issues. In fact, I was actually very pleased. In this situation, it's a facility trying to be proactive about some changes that are coming up for them, and so they wanted to talk with us and discuss any sort of concerns or anything that might come up from these changes. So I can't sit here and divulge too much information, but you know, it was good stuff. I felt good about it. So that was nice. But though we are starting late, we are here. I'll do my best to not gab a whole lot and actually get us some writing done, because I do, even beyond just wanting to provide good content for you guys here, I want to sit here and I want to do a little bit of creative stuff today. It's kind of my favorite part about doing these streams is it's like a scheduled, bookmarked segment of time that I get to sit here and be creative, which is, it's important to me. It's important to me as far as my own personal growth and happiness goes. So, at any rate, we're here. Let me get us over to our screen here. This is where we need to be. So, just a quick recap. We are working on making a large homebrew campaign for D&D 5e. Primarily a world building exercise, but we slap on some 5e statistics and everything, so that way it's an immediately playable in 5e. But my hope is always that anyone, with me, these are mostly for myself, but if I were ever to distribute this campaign or anything like that for any reason, anyone could easily just remove the stat blocks for 5e and put in any other rule system they wanted to, because the important stuff is to provide a world with interesting maps, locations, and things to do in it is always my goal. So with that in mind, we are designing this primarily for 5e, intended to take a group of about 5 players from level 1 all the way up to level 10 is sort of what we're working on. Now, the world that I have is a sort of post-apocalyptic fantasy type world. So the event, as it's called in the world, is called the Unhinging. And essentially, the Unhinging resulted in all of the different the mortal realm, the elemental planes, the philosophical planes, all of them just kind of getting jumbled up and sort of thrown into chaos, which is the result. Which, as a result, caused a whole lot of crazy, horrible, magical monsters and everything to kind of run rampant in the world. Humanoid creatures, all of the playable races essentially sought refuge within a handful of well-guarded cities, and the rest of the world was kind of abandoned to the chaos of the wilds, as it became known. We're about 2,000 years or so after that event, and things are starting to calm down. A lot of just through time and weird magical physics, I guess. It's fantasy. We can just do whatever we want. But over time, a lot of things have started to sort of just naturally settle down. And so a lot of more excursions out into this sort of forgotten, abandoned world are happening as people become braver and start leaving their safe havens that they've been in for as long as they have been. So this campaign in particular, let me make sure I'm on the right screen here. This campaign in particular is taking place in this hex of this world, kind of in this interesting little area that has a lot of different landscapes to play in, hopefully making it a fun, diverse, interesting campaign. And the basic premise is that the people of Fosvik up here have decided they want to build a trade route, or well, rather than build, kind of more so map out a trade route that goes through safer parts of the wilds to go directly down to Muffafetting here, as opposed to using the established trade route that goes all the way around and then back. And so our campaign takes place in here. And so with that, we can go ahead and pull up our campaign map. So here's the specific map. We can see our trade route as it's being established, right? And so players are part of this effort to build this route south. We have a little outpost city called Novotrokladny that has been established here as a sort of midway point to help service the excursion as they continue further south, so that way resupply missions and stuff like that don't take weeks and weeks traveling back and forth. They can sort of shorten the process there and sort of establish a new city, hopefully. Sorry if I'm shaking the mic a little bit here. My neck itches. I didn't really need to explain that probably, but that's okay. So the players are part of this excursion. It's heading down here, and it makes it to about this point, and our campaign opens with them being sort of on this journey when a dragon comes down and says, "Oi, this is my territory. I don't want you building a trade route. Leave." And all of the people that are part of the excursion are like, "Hey, man, we really need this. Like, this is kind of important for us to be able to do our survival. Can we, like, cut a deal? Is there something we can do?" And the dragon says, okay. Look, there's this place called the Hall of Wisdom down over here that I've been trying to get access to. It's sealed up magically. I need some keys. I haven't been able to find any of them. If you guys help me find these keys and help me get into this place, then I will let you go about your business and make your trade route. So, naturally, our players, being, you know, good people who are willing to indulge their DM, will accept this call to adventure and go about searching for these keys that they need. After doing a little bit of research, they'll eventually be led to the mountains up here, where the first key is hidden among various giant tribes that exist up in this region. They'll get that first key, return over here to their city, do some more research, and then the second key, will bring them down here to the abandoned dwarven city of Kagdaral. What they'll find when they get there is that the city is not so much abandoned as it has been reclaimed by Duragar. Create some potentially interesting political situations, depending on how they choose to roleplay that. Regardless of what they end up doing, though, they find that the most likely place that this key has wound up is going to be... oh, shoot. See, okay, hold on. I gotta watch my stream. I'm dropping frames here. I'm dropping a lot of frames here for some reason. Oh, boy. Let me see something. Hold on a second. It's continuing to cause issues. Hold on. I'm glad I noticed this. Give me a second here. I'm gonna put us right here. I have a couple things that I think might be the source of this. A couple things that I might be able to try. So I'm gonna do exactly that and see what we have going on here. Let's see here. This. Okay, so that's not. Alright, hold on. Come on, calm down. Calm down, computer. Okay, there we go. So let's see. Did that do anything for us? It really did not. We are dropping a lot of frames still. A lot of frames dropping. It seems to be claiming... Oh, wait. Did we smooth out? Looks like we might have smoothed out. That might have done it. Okay, we have smoothed out for the time being. Okay. All right. Hopefully that will continue to stay smoothed out. I apologize for that. I'm doing. I think I got it managed. The other thing that could be an issue here is it is very, very windy where I am. So there's a very good chance that there are some wires and stuff that are getting jostled around or maybe causing some issues outside, and that would be well outside of my control. But we seem to be stable at the moment, so we're going to resume. So, as I was saying, they go to the city, find that there are Duragar here, and through either role-playing or sneaking their way around the Duragar, they're going to find that the dwarves have their own sealed-off treasure vaults that the Duragar have been trying to get access to, have not been able to get access to, but those vaults are probably also where they're most likely to find these the next key that they're looking for. And that's where we are presently in the writing process. We're working on designing this sort of large dungeon of sorts, which is the next step here. And that is the vaults and the journey to the vaults, exploring the vaults themselves, and then eventually returning back to Cogdoral from the vaults. So if I'm remembering properly, we can pull up here. I'm going to move this over here just for easier access. We can see we have sort of mapped out our sort of map. We've put down our map. We've kind of created our basic map here, we've got the framework of it, but we have a lot of work still left to do, I guess is what I'm trying to say here. But that's where we left off. So let me think here. Before I got flustered trying to make sure that I wasn't dropping frames like nobody's business, I had kind of pre-thought out what I wanted to work on next for all of this. Now I gotta remember what the heck I had thought of. Yeah, so if we've got, there's a few, I guess the first immediate thing that I need to do is there are a few sort of housekeeping type things that we can do with our notes page here, where we're keeping all of our notes. We are going to have 10 rooms in each of these, as we've kind of already pre-mapped out. So I'm just going to start getting everything put in place here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That makes 6 right there. 7, 8, 9, 10. Just to make it look prettier, we'll put that space there. And we can do this for all of these, because all of these 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Wait, did I just put in 10, or did I already make 10 and just put in 11? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I accidentally put in 11. Huh. There we go. Okay. And actually, we can make it even. Actually, we can make this even faster. So we know we're gonna have to have our rooms numbered here. I always number the rooms like this, and I put a little corresponding number for each room in the map, just for quick reference, to make sure I'm reading the proper rooms. And just numbering them I find is the easiest way to do it, rather than trying to be descriptive or anything like that. But now check this out. We can really expedite the process where we can copy that whole bit there. Do that and just do it like that for each of these. So we can put this there, and this is just a time saver, really. And that's all we're working on here, is trying to save ourselves a little time and effort by pre-installing a lot of the effort and work that we have to do here. Okay, there we go. So we've got that figured out. Now we need to, there's a certain randomness I like to put in all of the rooms and everything for these dungeons. But one thing that I like to do first is plan out within any of these floors anything that has sort of a specific intentional location or plan or whatever. So that way when I'm then adding the randomness, the redundancies and everything like that, not redundancies, that's not the proper word. That's not what I'm talking about here. Just the randomness of everything. It doesn't get in the way of things that have sort of necessary components. So this is kind of the time when I like to think about how I'm going to throw in any sort of NPCs, like non-combatant NPCs, any sort of side missions or side stories or anything taking place within here that I'd like to have going on here. And so we have already thought about putting in some Durgar that were part of the efforts to part of the Durgar efforts to access these vaults that have failed. We're going to put in like a contingent of them or a group of them that are still alive, but have been unable to escape this this sort of dungeon area, and it takes place over a couple different areas. So dungeon is a very loose term, right? But we wanted to add these guys in here and sort of have them be injured as an explanation for why they couldn't escape, and also to give them sort of a role for the players to interact with, is what I really want to work on here. So what I'm going to do... oh shoot, I need to number these ones. Hold on. I need to do it. It makes me squirm if they're... Oops, if I don't have everything organized and ready to go here. That's not an essential thing for being a DM, that's just me being weird. In case you were wondering. Okay. So we know we're going to put our Duragar here. And so this is kind of a very loose thing, and this is where it gets really important to do what I'm always talking about, of how you don't want to fret too much about getting it perfect the first time, and instead you want to just kind of plop things down as you can think of them. Otherwise you'll fall into that situation of the, as I'm always calling it, analysis paralysis, where you're too worried about getting it right the first time so you don't get anything down at all, because you constantly think about different ways in which maybe this would be better, maybe that would be better. It's really easy to kind of fall into that trap, and so this is kind of the instance where I like to start just sort of like roughshod throwing things down where seems like a good place, and then we can manipulate and move things around as feels appropriate when the time comes, right? So if we're working on this floor, so I know we've already established that I want to put the Duragar in here. One thing that I would like to do, I've got our floor-wide notes here, and those are important things, and we'll kind of get to those once we start doing the details. I'm going to get rid of this. I don't think we need this anymore, because I have a pretty solid handle on there. It's mostly there to remind myself if I go through long periods where I'm not writing. But I don't really need that much detail at this moment, so... one thing that I would like to add here, so for our floor-wide notes here, I also want to put one more section that is hooks and side quests. I like to put just like a little, especially when we're getting into these more complicated dungeons, right, where they're getting bigger and there's a lot of stuff going on. I like to just kind of have like a quick notes section here that I can put details in, because we have sort of our more detailed notes of who our allies are and who our enemies are and all that kind of stuff, right? We have a bit more detail for that, but then on the floor in which it becomes relevant, I like to put, like I say, just those quick notes that I can quickly look at and remember things. So for our hooks and side quests here, I want to do injured Duragar. Oops. There we go. Injured Duragar. Hiding in area number 6 is where we're going to put them. We already kind of established that. We can put that right there. We'll have important information about accessing the vaults. Can give players clues about upcoming dangers, and then I'll put even an extra little note here. Spiders, imposters. I'm gonna put quotations here, imposters, and then Kruthic. So this is going to be an opportunity for players to get some sort of research done, in which they're going to have a clearer understanding that there's a lot of spidery type enemies, which we have put in here. There are the Kruthics, which are kind of a very key enemy that are very prevalent in this dungeon. Excuse me, as we've discussed. And then putting in the note about imposters there as a way to offer some foreshadowing about the sort of like the doppelganger that's going to show up and create some interesting tension and everything for players. So I want to do that type of stuff like that. So information about accessing vaults can give them upcoming dangers, and then I also would like to add a little note where they can say can offer info about needing keys and to bypass magical blocks. So, and actually that gives me an idea of something that we can do later here. So I'm going to come down. I'm immediately going to put a little note here for stage 4 here. Okay, so this is our 4th section here, and this is where we kind of see the players having their final approach to the dungeon. So we're going to again put hooks and side quests. I really should just put that into the format, into the template that I like to use. Hooks and side quests here. Magical. Actually, you know, we're just going to say accessing the vault. Vaults, maybe like a plural. I don't know, it just sounds more grand when there's like more than one vault, doesn't it? But so yeah, so accessing the vaults. I'm going to say physical locks, and we're going to put need keys from elsewhere in the dungeon. I'm going to put 2. This will be good. We'll put 2. There's 2 keys. There's 2 keys. Here we go. See, and this is why I like to put these things down, and this is why I say it's good to just start writing stuff. Because you see, as soon as I started thinking about it and started adding things, suddenly it's like the creation is flowing, right? Like I'm getting some good stuff here. Hooks and side quests. Because all of this stuff can be changed and edited if I decide I don't like it or I decide I need it to be different, right? There's nothing stopping me from changing it, but now I've got something. So moving forward, I don't have to sit here and hem and haw or wonder about where to put things. I've got it placed. So as long as I don't think of anything better, I've got what I need, and I can keep working with that. So I'm going to put key, let's see, this is the stage 3 here. Key number 2 to vaults. And then we're going to do the same thing up here, only it's key number 1. So each of these, in some way, shape, or form, I'll still have to think about the details, but hooks and side quests, right? And so we can say key number 1 to vaults. So we're going to have those keys hidden somewhere, and I'm immediately also thinking that if we're going to have magical blocks, it'd be kind of interesting if at least one of those floors had some sort of like magical key to help players sort of get their way out of there. I think that would be really cool, but I haven't figured that one out yet, so we'll get there. So we know, whoops, it was in this one, so we need keys, physical locks, need keys from elsewhere in the dungeon. And actually, I'm going to just, there's not a reason to put a second bullet there. We can just do it that way. And then we're going to say magical locks. And what I want to do is spells or curses in place to guard the vaults. And then I want to put something in here. I want to put little notes, and I'm going to put question marks because this is something that I want to think about a little bit more and flesh out, but I know I want to, these are my immediate ideas. We can do befuddlement magic to disorient, right? So maybe part of the magical issue is that there's some sort of befuddlement, and like we can add some sort of system in place for navigating this where players need to make like wisdom saves or intelligence saves or something like that every time they try to go to a different room, because if they fail, maybe they get confused about which door is which, and they suddenly will go in through the wrong door or through the wrong passage or something like that. So we can do something like that to confuse or disorient. And so we can also do barrier magic to stop them in their tracks. Question mark here. And then the other thing that I want to do, the other idea that I have, and we could use all 3 of them too. We don't have to be limited to just 1 or 2 or whatever. We can use as many of these as we want. We're just trying to make a cool, complex dungeon for players. So befuddlement, barrier, and the other idea that I had is I'm going to say protective magic that can destroy the vaults if players access incorrectly. Right, so something, so something, I want to put a question mark there because that's the tough one, because we don't want to result in the players being unable to accomplish their goal at all. Right, if they can't access the key, then that's kind of a non-opener for continuing the campaign, since that is one of the most important elements, one of the most essential elements to this campaign that we're designing. So I want to make a note about that. So I want to say cannot result in key, and we'll say Hall of Wisdom key being inaccessible. Right, and but the other idea, and the reason that I'm putting this in here at all, is could be excuse to cause collapse that forces them above ground. So an immediate idea that I have is maybe activates when they leave, question mark, right? So it's like it's a magic that once they're in there, we'll try to entomb them within the vault, right? And so we could do it like that. You know, and like there would be, you could almost excuse that type of trap where it's like it traps them inside the vault but not kill them. And you could almost excuse that as like sort of the concept of the dwarves. The idea was they wanted to force them to die while contemplating how their own greed brought them to this place, or something like that would be kind of an interesting angle. Or maybe they're just twisted jerks that want to see people suffer. I don't know. We can think about the details there, but that's kind of what the thought is immediately. You know, that's immediately what I think about for accessing the vaults. And so to bring that up to where this chain of thought began, he isn't to bypass magical blocks and stuff like that. So the Duergar can offer information about that. And we can say don't know about where keys are. I don't want to give that much information with it, right? But like they'll offer some information, and then but then maybe they can offer will be able to give vague idea of type of magic. So whatever we land on, maybe the Duergar can give like specific details, and we'll iron this out, and we'll get more of it as we go and continue writing. But the other thing I want to do, help them escape, and we'll do question mark there. If players do something to help them escape, and let's see, to help them escape, can offer extra reward. Good. Actually, no. Here's what I'm gonna do. No, that's not how I wanted to do it. Good for getting some money or items. And the other thing I want to do is good for improved relations with the Duergar, right? So it's like if they want to try and earn some favor with the Duergar king, or with with the captain, not the captain, the leader of that resistance group or something like that. And maybe we can do an angle here. Deliver to let's say we'll say help them escape, who to take them to, question mark. And what we can do, here's an idea that I have, and I'm going to put some rough notes about this because we can kind of flesh this out as we're going and think about this a little bit. To king, question mark, will to king, and we'll say to what was it Gwynwain was her name? Gwynwain Hellbreaker, to king, or to Gwynwain. We'll do question mark like that. And then what I'm thinking is role play to have players convince the Duergar who to go to. Let's see here. To to king to report what they found, since king is who sent them, or to Gwynwayn because king abandoned them. So what I'm doing is I'm just giving myself some notes so I can flesh this out a little bit later, but the thought that I have is it'd be interesting if the Duergar are kind of a neutral entity when the players find them, and depending on how the players explain things to the Duergar and what the players try to convince them of, the Duergar could be convinced, like, hey, the king abandoned you, and there's this woman who's got a resistance against the king going on. Maybe you would be interested in helping her cause, right? And so we can play it that way. Or if the players are in allegiance with the king, they can say, hey, the king would still really like to hear from you guys, and he'd be really happy to see that you're still alive. Maybe you should go see him. And so players can kind of figure that one out however they so choose. So that gives us a lot of stuff to work with as far as the angles, and all of that stems from, like, really the only thing we need to do is put the injured Duergar there. So real easy to do that one, real easy to kind of figure that one out. So for this one, key 1 to vaults, hidden here somewhere, and if I'm remembering properly, let me check our dungeon. If I'm remembering properly, the second stage, yes, this is sort of like a residential area here. And so what I'm going to do is we'll say, we'll put a note here, hidden somewhere here, clues suggesting one of the ancient keepers of the keys, and I did not spell ancient even close to correctly. This is one of the ancient keepers of the keys lived in one of these houses. And we can say key hidden behind a lock of its own. Question mark. Entire floor is a riddle to find clues, and I'm gonna put a question mark there. So it's not like there'd be an intentionally designed riddle, but maybe there's like a series of journal entries within all these homes that discuss, like, so and so does this thing, oh, so and so did this thing, oh, my neighbor did this thing, he's so and so, right? Kind of give them some logic clues so they can try and figure out where it is, and then have the journal be accessible and findable only once they've kind of reached a success state of finding a certain number of those clues or something like that. Find out more information. So I'm just gonna put documents and clues directing to who had the key and where did they hide it. And then we'll say maybe treat as skill challenge so that players must find X out of Y clues. X, those just being like algebraic numbers. Maybe treat as skill challenge that players must find X out of Y clues to even be able to find key at all. So we can add a little bit something like that, just to add some complexity here and make this its own thing. Because what I'm trying to do here, and the reason I'm trying to fill this up a lot here, and I've sort of been doing it with all of the dungeons, but just to explicitly state it, because I was thinking about it and I realized that, like, without me explicitly stating it, I might not be clear exactly how I'm approaching this. Because we're reaching a stage here now where our dungeons are really getting long. I mean, I try to do it with all the dungeons anyway, regardless of the length, but we're getting into these really long dungeons. To make them not feel quite so, or not, to make sure not all of them feel quite so samey and tedious, right? The last dungeon we made was exactly that, but it was with a purpose, right? It was with a purpose. But to make sure that these don't all just feel like mega dungeon after mega dungeon, where it's just like, oh yeah, just like room of enemies, kill them, move on, right? Because that would get kind of repetitive after a while as these dungeons are getting larger and larger. I'm thinking about each dungeon as a very loose description or a very loose use of the word dungeon, right? So this, you can, if it's easier to conceptualize it for you, you can think of this as not being a dungeon, but rather a component of the larger story arc. So like a smaller story arc within the larger story arc, right? So it's like this is just the pathway to the key. And so rather than thinking about it as one dungeon, maybe you think about this as being a set of 5 dungeons that are just reached in quick succession, so that each of these mini dungeons has its own set of interesting side hooks and plots and bits of information and stuff to do, right? So that way it doesn't feel, because what I'm trying to avoid now is, especially because the last dungeon that we did was pretty much just go from room to room, survive and get through mega dungeon, right? And it was very purposefully designed to be that, but because we just did that, I'm trying to avoid doing that same thing again and again. And so that's why we see this dungeon, this one big dungeon, this level 5 dungeon, going from like, you know, it starts off in an underground city to an underground suburb to underground tunnels that end in a vault to above ground forest, right? We're covering a lot of different ground in this one dungeon rather than it just being like, yep, you go to basement number 2 of said dungeon and it's more of the same stuff. We're adding a lot of variety. So you can try and think about this as less of a dungeon and more of a miniature story arc within our larger story arc. I would say both definitions are accurate, and I'm kind of approaching them in the same way. I consider it just a single dungeon because the idea is that players can stay within this page of notes, right, within this setup for a very extended period of time is sort of the idea. But the flip side of that is there will be timeline crunches within this whole grouping of floors as we're doing them that will require players to stay active and attentive and focused on what they're doing is sort of the idea that I'm going for. So anyway, that's a bit of a tangent, but it's just something that I was thinking about, and I realized I haven't really described in detail why I make the dungeons as big as I do and what the proper, not proper, but what my mindset is as I'm doing it, and the reason why I make these decisions. So, you know, thanks for coming to my TED Talk and all that. Hold on a second. I just gotta check and make sure this isn't something super crucially important. Nope, that can wait. Okay. All right. So, at any rate, so we've got that. So we've got that little bit of a extended puzzle within there to be part of the main thing. And now the other idea for sort of like a side quest going on in here is, I'm gonna say the doppelganger. I know I clearly misspelled doppelganger. Doppelganger, not doppelganger. So the doppelganger lives down here among the ancient dwarven homes. Okay, here's what I want to do here. I'm going to pull up this. I'm going to pull up our doppelganger. We're going to pull this up, but I just want to see what kind of lore they offer for these guys, and I may use it or I may change it and do my own thing. Doppelgangers are devious shapeshifters that take on the appearance of other humanoids, throwing off pursuit or luring victims to their doom with misdirection and guise. Doppelgangers are devious shapeshifters that take on the appearance of other humanoids, throwing off pursuit. Oh, we already just repeated that exact sentence, right word for word there. Few creatures spread fear, suspicion, and deceit better than doppelgangers. Found in every land and culture, they can take on the guise of any individual of any race. Doppelganger's adopted form allows it to blend into almost any group or community, but its transformation doesn't impart languages, mannerisms, memory, or personality. Doppelgangers often follow or capture creatures they intend to impersonate, studying them and probing their minds for secrets. A doppelganger can read a creature's surface thoughts, allowing it to glean the creature's name, desires, and fears, along with a few scattered memories. A doppelganger impersonating a specific creature as part of a long-term plot might keep its double alive and close at hand for weeks, probing the victim's mind daily to learn how to behave and speak authentically. Doppelgangers work alone or in small groups, with group roles shifting from con to con. While one doppelganger takes the place of a murdered merchant or noble, the other takes on a number of identities as circumstances warrant, playing the parts of family or servants while they live off the victim's riches. Doppelgangers are too lazy or self-interested to raise their young. They assume attractive male forms and seduce women, leaving them to raise their progeny. A doppelganger child appears to be a member of its mother species until it reaches adolescence, at which point it discovers its true nature and is driven to seek out its kind to join them. Okay. So, with that kind of lore in mind, I wanted to read that lore and kind of get an idea for how they're designed and just kind of work on that and sort of piggyback off of it to sort of think about what this creature's motivations are going to be. Because as it stands in my world, I don't really have a strong, unique lore for changelings and doppelgangers as it stands. There's room there for me to take inspiration from things as they're written, which is exactly what I'm going to do here. So among the ancient dwarven homes, wishes to integrate itself well into the Duergar, the Duergar. Actually, here's what we're gonna do. Was planning to infiltrate Duergar community to, we'll say, to reproduce and elevate its lifestyle. We'll see opportunity among the players and want to use them as a way to go even beyond the Duergar. Let's see here. So that's kind of what it wants to do. And the next thing I'm going to add here is we'll try to earn the trust and favor of the players. First appears as a Duergar to try and get them to help him, quote, escape. One of the captured, actually we'll say we'll phrase it this way, one of the Duergar that was helping with the vault missions was his captive, is now dead. Hold on. It's a Duergar. So let's see. So he shows up as a Duergar. I'm trying to make sure I understand and can think about his motives and what his plan would be. A plan that would be believable. Will use victims' memories to know proper names and names and plans to convince players he's the original, not a copy. And so we can do that, and we'll say, let me see here, we'll stick close and maybe even try to capitalize on situations. If any players separate from group, we'll say definitely single individuals, but possibly two if they break into small groups. So it'll try and do that. So it'll try and so if they break up and say hey, let's do partners and stuff like that, it will try and take advantage. Will try to knock out and claim the player's identity. Let's see. We'll stick close and maybe even try to capitalize on situations. May try to actively lure players away. The basic plan. I'm gonna make this here. The basic plan is to replace the player and return to the rest, claiming a monster took the Duergar. So that way they can try and like take the place, and that'll explain why suddenly they're short the Duergar while still replacing the player and stuff like that. So we'll do things like that, and it'll just be like a dangerous foe. And the last thing I'm going to say, so we'll stick close to, and maybe capitalize on the situations. And then, yeah, we'll just put this right here. Will either be found out and killed, will flee, or if never found out, will disappear as soon as returning to Duergar City. So as soon as he's brought in, he'll just kind of vanish. And there'll be something fun and interesting about that. And then maybe we can even do a callback to that later on in the campaign or something like that. So, at any rate, there's a lot of details there, but that's kind of what I wanted to do with that Duergar, or with that doppelganger, and put him in there just to make it more interesting. So now this one, let's see here. Who's our... Oh, yeah, the Death Priest. That's right, the Death Priest. Hold on, I'm going to pull that guy up here. I want to look at that guy again, too. It is fun to sort of have these side quests based around these mini-bosses. Death Priest. Let's see here. Crawl Death Priest, that's the one we're looking for. Boom, that's right, this thing. Oh yeah, Crawler, an ascendant power group within the Golgari swarm, uncontent to linger at the margins of the Undercity, now increasingly making their buzzing voices heard in the subterranean Golgari Guild Hall. Death Priests occupy the highest roles in the Crawl Society, so it's got a lot of information for them, specifically regarding being members of the Crawl. I'm not going to use a lot of that, but we can still kind of use that to inform ourselves of some stuff. So maybe this one is... Here's what we can do for this one. Is possessed by the Death Priest. So we'll do is possessed by the Death Priest. We'll need to kill him or steal it. I think it'll be pretty obvious which one they'll end up doing. But we're gonna say Death Priest here. I'm gonna put some notes here. Was once a dwarf, but has been corrupted and disfigured slowly over the years since the unhinging began. Now has no remaining sanity that is accessible in the former dwarven mind. The key is around its neck, and it guards it ferociously, though it doesn't really remember why. So it's just a creature. And so this one's real simple, right? The other one was very thinky, very puzzle related, lots of logic and riddles and stuff. This one's very simple. The monster has that key. You got to kill that thing and take the key, because it's not gonna give it back. But yeah, we can kind of offer up a little bit of lore just to kind of explain that it was once a dwarf. And we'll say, since a dwarf, one of the keepers of the keys, but became trapped when trying to return from locking down the vaults at the beginning of the unhinging, right? So we can kind of give that. But has been corrupted and disfigured slowly. So it's like it was an individual. He was a keeper of the key, went there to kind of lock things down and say like, okay, I've done my job. Now I got to get out of here. But then got trapped on his way out, and is now what he is. And it's as simple as that. And that's why he has the key. That's why this nasty guy has the key. I mean, just look at this guy. Look at that. Hardly anything humanoid left about him, but I'm honestly okay with that. I think that's wretched and horrible and awesome all at the same time. I think it's great. I think it'll be perfect. Yeah, I really think that'll actually work out really well. And it's just like, and it's kind of a fun thing too, because we add this lore, but it kind of demonstrates the anomalous impact that the unhinging had on this world. They're like, there really aren't rules about how things happen. Some just weird, crazy, magical things happen because of this. You know, there's no other... Oh, excuse me. You know, like what I mean is there's no other instance of a dwarf getting turned into one of these things. It's just the unique circumstances of where he was and what happened to him. That's what he became. I think that's actually a really cool concept here. So we've got this here, accessing the vaults, physical locks. Yeah, so this is... We've already kind of done that. I don't know that I really want to even bother putting a whole lot else in there. The Hive Lord is just incidentally there, right? And then this final part here, again, I don't know that we really need to do a whole lot in terms of coming up with any additional side quests or anything like that. We can do hooks and side quests. I guess what we can do, because of what we've done here, we'll do ogres as enemies or allies? Question mark. We'll do it right here. So we're going to say default is that the ogres are aggressive and violent out here. But if players are crafty and have good rolls, maybe there is a chance of an alliance. Players help them hunt the ape, and ogres help guide the players out of the forest. Or we can do something like that. If no alliance, it's all just hostility. We're all just very angry and violent with each other. What can you do? They're ogres. And I think it's simple as that. It's not even really a side quest per se. But hey, you know, it's an option. And we put it there, and we can maybe drop a few hints towards the players that that's an option, right? Because one thing I've noticed is that there are kind of two ways that ideas and problem solving happen in D&D. There's either the players come up with something completely different that I would have never considered or never thought of, that's really clever, and I love it, and we let them do what they want to do. Hey, Citaron, how's it going? We can do that way, or, you know, when trying to solve a problem, players will be completely clueless, and we have to to help them along and give them hints. Either way, we're kind of prepared for it. I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. So, yeah, I think that'll be good. That just adds a little bit of depth, possibly, to that last section there. And yeah, I think that'll suffice just fine. So that gives us a lot of ideas here for some stuff. So what I think I'm gonna do. So we at this point, there's about. Let me see here. Do I want to put anything else here? I don't think I'm ready to put any other details in here yet. Well, I eventually want to kind of hammer this out a little bit better. But I think I need to hammer out the individual floors and the individual room sets and stuff within this dungeon before I know exactly how relevant all of these things will be and who will do what and all that kind of stuff. So we got about 10 minutes left. I think what I want to do is I want us to just get the last bit of bare bones stuff kind of thought about and mapped out within this first set. So that way, tomorrow when we start writing, we can just hit the ground running and, you know, see what kind of progress we can make in getting all of the details of this first set of rooms done for this dungeon. So, for that, I need to pull out a couple of my quick notes utilities here and my dice, because there's a lot of randomness that I like to add to these just to kind of keep things fresh, make sure I'm not getting too predictable and repetitive with the stuff that I do. So we'll pull out the dice, pull out the notepad here, and I'll show my work and describe how I'm doing it. So yeah, we really don't need any more. We don't need to pre-plan any rooms. There aren't any rooms that are predetermined. Everything else kind of still can be done randomly. We've just put 6 there. So let me see here. So for the dice that we're going to use, I always like to just sort of pick out. I've got so many dice. As a DM, people often think that I would be super into collecting minis, but I find that to be the least practical way to do it, because I would have to buy so many miniatures. I'd have to buy so many of them, because you'd have to get one for each enemy and each boss, right? And there'd be situations where you have to have, like, you know, up to 10 individuals because they're the easy ones to kill and all that kind of stuff. There's so many of them that you'd have to do. And like the bosses, you'd only ever use them once and move on. So I instead collect dice, essentially, and that's what I choose to spend all of my D&D fun money on. And so I like to just sort of randomly choose a set that we're going to use. Ooh, we'll use these ones. These are great. These are my, like, fire. Hold on. See if it'll focus here. No, put it in front of my face maybe to get it to refocus. There it goes. There they are. Look at how pretty that is. Gold trim with the orange and black fire type of stuff going on. We'll use those ones. They're metal dice too. Oh, they're so pretty. I love these dice. There we go. We'll just pull out the full set here. I need the 10, the 8, the 6, and the 4-sided iterations of these guys to randomly assign our rooms. There we go. Okay, so we've got our dice all selected out here. And so the way I always do it is I sort of have predetermined, and this was the thing that I deleted, but I have like I have a little notepad that helps me do it. I've predetermined the things that I like to make sure are in each room, or at least when we're doing this style of room. And so I randomly assign, but it's without repeats. So I have on this little notepad here, I pre-made a big chart. Hold on, let me see if we can get it to focus there. No, it's not really gonna do it. Anyway, it's a chart that I can just mark off once we've assigned each room, right, with the types of stuff that it's going to be in there, just so that way we don't get a whole lot of, or at least so we don't get any repeats beyond the intended repeats, because there are a couple things that show up twice. And so each room in general, as you can see on my format here, or on my little template here that I'll fill out, each room in general will have 1 danger and 1 reward. Again, loose terms, but that's just kind of how I think about it and how it sort of conceptually breaks down for me. And so we just kind of randomly assign stuff. The one thing that I will say is, because we're putting the Duragar in there, that will constitute, I'm going to put them as a reward, quote unquote, and that will constitute one of our lore-based rewards. A lot of times I'll offer up lore that gives players clues and information about how to better survive other rooms within this dungeon and stuff like that. So just like is an interesting way to help the world building be a practical thing for them. So we because we have those Duragar there, I'm counting that as one of the lore, so we're going to pre-mark that off just to know that we don't want to put that in there. But now we're just going to randomly assign, and all I do is, so we got 10 rooms, which means we've got 10 different things. So we're going to start off with the 10-sided die. Just roll that. And whatever on my little chart here, go in starting with 1 at the top, right? However, whatever number comes up, that's what goes in that room. And we'll readjust things if we need to, but I like doing it this way because it helps me not sit here and get too used to like, oh, well, this room is shaped like this, so it should have this type of thing or anything like that. Or it's like, oh, this room is located further back in the dungeon, so it should maybe have this. It helps kind of give me a challenge as a creative writing, experiment to think about like, oh, okay, this is kind of a strange place to put a boss battle. Why would we put a boss battle there, and are there ways that we can funnel our players to it? So on and so forth. So that's why I do it this way. It's all just selfishly to give myself something fun to do. And an excuse to use all my pretty dice. They're so pretty. All right, so we're gonna roll this D10 for the first one, and like I say, once we're done, once we've marked off a couple of them, we'll lower to the D8, just so that way I don't have to roll as many times to like re-roll things. So that is a number 3, which means the danger in room 1 is just gonna be an easy battle. Easy battle. And then our reward here is going to be, based on this, it's just going to be some money. This is going to be a room that has some sort of money or treasure in it. I'm going to put treasure there just because it's like it doesn't have to just be money. It can be artworks, or it can be jewelry. It can be magical things. It can be all kinds of number of things. All right, so for our next room here, room number 2, the danger is also, again, it's going to be an easy battle according, so saith the dice. See, battle. And then, because we already pre-marked off one of our rewards, in fact, I'm going to put this right here. I'm going to say this is, because this was going to be lore. And then we'll just put, I'm going to just put, because this one's been predetermined, underline, lore, Durgar, we'll say, injured, Durgar. We'll do that right there, just so that way we remember we already predetermined what they are. But now let's roll and see. In that room 2, that one's going to have, this is where we're going to put enchantment item here. And so usually I'll put a token in there, but I've been thinking more and more about it. It'd be really fun if it wasn't always just an enchantment token, and let's say within the entirety of the dungeon there's everything you need to make, like, what to construct one weapon, so like a crafting thing, and then there's a token that you could do to enchantment. So it's almost, rather than an enchantment item, we can just say, I'm gonna actually say crafting / enchantment item. So we can put that there, and it can just be like, you know, we'll, over the course of this dungeon, everyone will get whatever raw materials they would need to make a sword or something like that. You know, it's like maybe in one of the rooms there's like a forge where they can sit there and players can like use that to try and forge a sword or something like that, or try to work on it and get some sort of advantage. But it's like you have all of the stuff to make like a magical sword that's related to the dungeon or something like that, just to make it even more exciting and rare and interesting. You know, the more kind of complexity we can add to our player, or add for our players, I should say, the better. So, mark that off. Okay, so now on to our next room here, room 3. The danger in there. That's where we're going to put the mini-boss here. So saith the dice. Mini-boss. And then the, whoops, that was supposed to be room 3. I don't know why I put that. Oh, I know I put it in roll 5 because I rolled a 5. Hold on. Copy that. That's supposed to go over here. Put that right there. That's fine. And then we'll just redo the other one. And so then the reward in this room is, that one's going to be some potions. There we go. Potions. Not necessarily health potions, but probably at least a couple health potions. Alright, this next room, the danger, so saith the dice, is going to be a medium difficulty battle. Great. Medium battle. There we go. And then the reward, so saith the dice, will be, this room will also have potions in it. Great. Okay, this one, it's not a mini-boss, because I goofed up, but we'll re-roll it. This one, the danger present here is going to be, this one's going to be a hard battle. And then the reward for it will be, let's see here. That is going to be, so there's going to be another lore item. Some sort of item that gives more details about what sort of dangers or rewards or things like that can be found in this dungeon. Give players a little bit of another extra sort of clue about just the nature of where they're exploring right there. Alright, so now room 6 here. This one, we don't need to come up with some sort of reward. We already know that one's going to have the reward because that's where we wanted to plant our Durgar side quest people there. But the danger present there is going to put some sort of puzzle there. Although, actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm gonna intentionally do something. I always have one room that doesn't actually have a danger, a safe room, and we're gonna put that right there because it just kind of makes sense, right? It kind of just makes sense for that one to be a safe room that because the Durgar are hiding there, so they would have fortified it and made it safe, right? They wouldn't be sitting there in the middle of some sort of horribly dangerous situation, right? They're kind of camped out there and they've managed to secure that area. So we're gonna have that one be safe. That just makes sense to me. So now onto our next room then. Roll it up, and so now this one is going to be a puzzle room. So we'll put some sort of puzzle in there, some sort of very specific puzzle. Hey, how's it going? Brandon Soros. That's awesome. That's an awesome name. Hey, thanks for the follow. I appreciate you being here. Glad you're enjoying it. Yeah, so we'll put a puzzle in there, and then the reward for completing that puzzle, so saith the dice, will be. So this is a very game rule, not lore or immersion necessarily, but a very game rule mechanic that I like to do for my players. I'm doing well, thank you for asking. I like to do with my players. I call it the compass because the idea kind of comes from the Legend of Zelda approach to a compass, where it provides information about where to find different treasures and important items within a dungeon. I like to have some sort of item there that does that for players, where it offers extra clues about, like, hey, there's still something to find in this room. And it's very game mechanic-y. It doesn't necessarily fit the whole everything has a certain realism to it, but I'm fine with that because ultimately we're playing a game and my players like it. So hey, there we go. That's what we'll do. So that's what's going to be in that room. The next room, the danger will be an easy battle, so saith the dice. Easy battle. And then the reward in this room is going to be, that's where there's going to be a map. Another thing that my players have really liked is me adding the ability to find a map, mainly because I use virtual tabletop, which utilizes a whole lot of the the fog of war and line of sight type stuff. And so I like to put in that map item that players can possibly find to sort of get a better idea of the layout of the dungeon. If they can find it, and they've had fun with that mechanic, they've enjoyed that. So I'm keeping it. All right, next room, the danger is going to. Ooh, that's going to be the room that has a trap in it. That's great. So that'll be a trapped room of some sort. We'll figure that one out once we get there. And the reward for surviving said trap will be money. We'll just put some treasure in there. So saith the dice. Treasure. Which means that by default, based on everything that I like to make sure are in this or will be in this set of rooms, room 10 will have a medium difficulty battle. And the reward will... and then because just like how I like to have at least one room in each floor have no danger as opposed to having one of the dangers, I like to have at least one room have no reward as opposed to having some sort of reward. So this one will be empty. No reward. Just to keep them on their toes. And that is how the things are going to shake out in this dungeon. And I'm glad we did that because we got that done, because then we can kind of be ready to just start diving into some of the details, at least of this first floor of our dungeon tomorrow, because it is a little after 1:30 my time, which means it's time for me to take a bit of a break, and then we'll be back to do some video game streaming. So that's what's about to happen. I'm just kind of tidying a couple things up here. Yeah, so that's what's going to happen. I'm going to take a bit of a break, maybe like 15-20 minute break, and then I'm going to come back. I am still working through my run-through of Neverwinter Nights, so if you want to see me goof around playing that game, you can stick around, or rather check back in like 15-20 minutes, and we'll get going on that. But yeah, otherwise, thank you so much to everyone who stopped by. I'm sorry this was a bit of a shorter writing stream. I got started late today. Apologize for that. Like I say, day job, which I value, not just for bills, but because I take my work seriously. I had a meeting that I had to do, so I just had to be there for it. ran a little late, but we still got some writing done. Still got a little bit of that creative energy flowing there. Hopefully there was some interesting stuff for you there. But yeah, so the rest of this week, tomorrow, I will be streaming as per usual. My usual, for anyone who's not familiar, my usual streaming rotation is every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. I do, typically speaking, as long as work doesn't get in the way, we do writing streams, world building streams at 11:30 Eastern Time Zone, 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time Zone, and then video game streaming immediately after at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time Zone on all of those days. That's the standard schedule, and we will be sticking to that tomorrow for Friday. So if you want to see more writing, want to see sort of how the details of this floor of this dungeon pan out, as you're just stopping by tomorrow. Let's see here. If you want, just a couple self-plugs here. If you want up-to-date announcements, or you want to just be around and part of a community that likes to discuss different homebrew stuff, different D&D type stuff, or different video game stuff, I do have my Discord server. You can feel free to get yourself hooked up with that. You can find the link to that on my Twitch channel. Everyone's welcome. We just ask that you come in there and get yourself verified, just so we don't get any bots or anything like that overwhelming the system. So we got that resource for you. Also, if you want to see some of the other stuff I've worked on for this campaign that we're writing, if you want to kind of see how it has gone so far up until this point, if you want to see some of the other things that I've worked on writing, if you want to see other games that I played and stuff like that, I do have a YouTube channel where I upload all of my VODs, so you can see all of the stuff that I've done in the past there. It's for anyone to check out, so you can, again, find the link to that on my Twitch channel. Feel free to check that out if you're just itching for more writing stuff and you don't want to wait for tomorrow. Other than that, I think that's all of my announcements. We're getting close to the holidays. Next week is going to be kind of strange, but we'll talk about that tomorrow, since we still got one more day this week to get through. But yeah, I think that's everything. So thank you so much for stopping by. Like I say, I'm going to just take a quick break, and then I'll be back in like 15-20 minutes, and we'll do some gaming. So yeah, if you're up for that, stick around. If not, then hopefully I will see you tomorrow, or the next time you stop by. Either way, take care of yourselves. I appreciate you being here. You guys all make this a whole lot of fun for me. I love streaming. It's so much fun, and it's extra fun doing it, knowing that people are interested in what I'm doing. So thank you a million, and yeah, take care of yourselves. I'll be back shortly, so I'll see you then, hopefully. All right, I'll be back soon. Okay, I'm gonna end it now. Now that I've made it sufficiently awkward, it's gonna stop now.